morning, viewers. Welcome to the 17th May edition of the Satyavani show by School of Journalism and Mass Communication, APJ Satya University. Let us start today's day with the COVID-19 updates, right coming away from Tanya.
Thank you, Harish. Today, COVID-19 updates. COVID-19 lockdown extend in Delhi by another week. Delhi will be another lockdown for at least one more week till May 24. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announced on Sunday. The lockdown was to end on May 17 at 5 a.m. The lockdown, which was first imposed on April 19, has been extended for the fourth time. The lockdown is being extended as the gains made so far in combating the coronavirus cannot be lost due to relaxation now, said Kejriwal. COVID cases are on the wane in Delhi. For 28,395 cases reported on April 20 to 6,430 cases on Saturday. The capital has witnessed a major turnaround over the past 25 days. Now moving on to Harish.
Yeah, let's hear the next news. Delhi police arrest Navneet Kalra in oxygen concentrators black marketing case. Navneet Kalra was arrested by the Delhi Police Crime Branch on Sunday. The businessman has been accused of hoarding and black marketing of oxygen concentrator in Delhi amid the devastating second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. He was arrested from his brother-in-law's farmhouse in Gurugram. Now let's move us for the next article from Surbhi.
Thank you, Harish. Second wave turns a corner as cases fall for 7 days. The devastating second wave of COVID in India appears to have turned a corner. The 7-day average of daily cases has fallen for 7 days in a row. The positivity rate over the past week has dipped below 20%, and active cases have decreased by more than 1.5 lakh during this period. Deaths may stay high for some more time, although average daily fatalities have dipped in the last 2 days. The daily toll crossed 4,000 again on Saturday. In another welcome change, the national test positivity rate, that is TPR, has dipped over the last 7 days. Detected cases fell even as number of tests increased over these 7 days. Taken together, these three parameters seems to tell a story of consistently decreasing infections in India over the past weeks, but the COVID situation in rural India continues to be worrisome as lower testing may mean a high number of cases going undetected. Thank you. Now moving on to Sneha for some more COVID updates.
Thank you, Surbhi. Scams related to COVID vaccine online registration that you need to be careful about. With the entire COVID-19 vaccination process made online in India, scammers are now trying to trick gullible citizens into revealing their personal information, including banking details, by promising them to help get a vaccine slot. Due to shortage of vaccines across the country, booking a vaccine appointment is difficult. Scammers are using this to their advantage. Here are a few scams related to COVID vaccine online registration on COVID that you need to be careful about. SMS asking you download certain apps to register for vaccine. If you came across any SMS that tells you to download certain app, then you know it's fake and meant to steal your personal information. You can only book a vaccine slot through the official Arogya Setu app and by visiting the COVID website. WhatsApp messages claiming your vaccine lot is booked and you need to pay to confirm. Note that there is no official partnership with WhatsApp or any other platform with regards to payment or vaccine registration. So ignore any such message that you get on WhatsApp. Email claiming confirmed vaccine slot for third-party apps. Be aware of emails that lure you to download third-party apps by claiming to offer confirmed vaccine slot on the COVID platform. Now moving on to Ritika for state updates.
Thank you so much, Sneha. State update. Uttar Pradesh government further extends COVID curfew till 24th May. Amid surge in novel coronavirus case in the state, the UP government on Sunday extended the partial coronavirus curfew till 7 a.m. of 24th May. Until the relaxation of the orders, all shops and establishments are required to remain closed in the containment zone. However, all essential services will be allowed and the COVID-19 vaccination drive will continue. Outside containment zones, grocery shops and the shops selling essential items of daily use such as milk and vegetables can remain open. Pharmacies and shops selling surgical instruments will also not come under the purview of the order. Though the government has said those searching for medicine and oxygen will not be stopped, it has already introduced an e-pass system. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Akanksha.
Thank you, Ritika. Cyclone Taukate updates. ICG says all but 19 fishing boats have returned to ports in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Very severe cyclonic storm Taukate will cross Gujarat's coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district early Tuesday morning, the IMD said. Cyclone Taukate would be intensified into very cyclonic storm and is approaching Gujarat coast and Indian Meteorological Department in IMD said on May 16. It's very likely to move northwestwards and reach Gujarat coast in evening hours of May 17 and cross Gujarat coast between Porbandar and Mahua around 18 May early morning, the IMD said. The IMD also issued yellow alert for the coast of Gujarat and Daman Diu. The very severe cyclonic storm Taukate would cause heavy to very heavy rains at isolated places in North Konkan, Mumbai, Thane and Palghar in Maharashtra on May 17. However, as it passed through the senior Mumbai coast, its effects likely to be accompanied by rain and strong winds. Thank you. Now moving on to Shubhankar for more updates.
Thank you, Kansha. First Oxygen Express arrives in Kerala. The first Oxygen Express arrived in Kochi in the early hours of Sunday with 140 tons of gas in 7 container tankers. The consignment arrived from the Tata Steel plant in Odisha. The tanker was received at the terminal station by officials of the Revenue Department and the railways. The gas will now be dispatched by road on to its designated supply centers. The Union government has promised another consignment of oxygen via Oxygen Express. Thank you. And now moving on to Dharya for more updates.
Thank you, Shubhankar. At least 17 police have been arrested. 17 people have been arrested by the Delhi police over posters criticizing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's handling of the coronavirus pandemic that come up in the past few days in the capital. The Delhi police, which is controlled by the central government, have registered more than 21 first information reports or FIRs under sections of the Defacement of Public Property Act besides other laws. The arrest made by the 4 divisions of the police, Eastern Range, East, Central, Northeastern, suggesting the operation was a coordinated action. The move comes over posters that had emerged in several parts of the city with messages like Modi ji, आपने हमारे बच्चों की वैक्सीन देश क्यों भेजती है? Modi ji, why did you send vaccines meant for our children to abroad? On Thursday, 6 people were arrested in East Delhi's Kalyanpuri area, where Delhi police received input that the posters criticizing the Prime Minister were being put up. More than 800 posters and banners were also recovered from sources. More FIRs are likely to be registered if further complaints are received in this regard. As of now, the investigation is underway to ascertain on whose behalf these posters were being put up at various places across the city, and accordingly further action will be taken. Now let's move over to Pak.
Thank you, Harish and Darren. And for the last city news of the day, 3 Bengal kids drowned in rainwater filtration ditch. 3 minor children drowned on Saturday in a ditch filled with rainwater at Nandanpur village in Bengal's Murshidabad district. The ditch was dug in a field to collect mud for a local brick kiln, police said. The children were identified as 8-year-old Sahidul Sheikh, 6-year-old Rashid Sheikh, and an 8-year-old girl, Asha Khatun. They were cousins. The incident took place in the Ranitala police station area of Murshidabad. Villagers told the police that it had been raining for the last few days and the water filled up the ditch. On Saturday afternoon, the children went out to play in the field after a nor'wester, a stormy weather pattern, but did not return home till late evening. Later, bodies were found floating in the stagnant water. The children were declared dead on arrival at Nashipur Hospital. Maqsid Sheikh, a relative of the children, said, "The incident has shattered us." Sheikh said, "A local brick kiln owner dug the ditch a few days ago. The field is part of the brick kiln. The children apparently failed to spot the stagnant water since it was dark." And police officer from Ranikhet police station said, "A case of unnatural death has been registered. The bodies were sent for postmortem examination." Now, thank you. Now let's move on to Muskan for some international news.
Thank you, Paki. Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, 26 killed. OIC leaders hold emergency meet. Israeli airstrikes on Gaza City flattened 3 buildings and killed at least 26 people on Sunday, medics said, making the deadliest single attack since heavy fighting broke out between Israel and the territory's Hamas ruler nearly a week ago. The Gaza Health Ministry says the death toll from Israeli strikes on a main thoroughfare in Gaza City has climbed to 33, including 12 women and 8 children. Earlier, the Israeli military said it destroyed the home of Gaza's top Hamas leader in a separate strike in the southern town of Khan Yunis. It was the third such attack in the last 2 days on the homes of senior Hamas leaders who have gone underground. Israel has stepped up strikes in recent days to inflict as much as damage as possible on Hamas as international mediators try to broker a ceasefire. The latest outbreak of violence began in East Jerusalem earlier this month when Palestinians protested attempts by settlers to forcibly evict a number of Palestinian families from their homes and Israeli police measures at Al-Aqsa Mosque, a frequent flashpoint located on a mount in the old city reverted by Muslims and Jews. Hamas fired rock towards Jerusalem late Monday, triggering the Israeli assault on Gaza. The turmoil has spilled over elsewhere, fueling protests in the occupied West Bank and stoking violence within Israel between Jewish and Arab citizens, with clashes and attacks on people and property. At least 181 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, including 52 children and 31 women, with 1,225 wounded. 8 Israelis have been killed. Now, moving on to Avni for some more updates.
Thank you, Muskan. Afghanistan ceasefire ends amid calls for fresh talks with Taliban. Afghanistan government's 3-day ceasefire with the Taliban marked by violent attacks, some claimed by the ISIS armed group, ended on Sunday amid calls for renewed peace talks. Fighting resumed on Sunday on the outskirts of Lashkar Gah, the capital of the described southern province of Helmand. An Afghan military spokesman and a local official said. The fighting started early today and is still going on. Atullah Afghan, head of the Helmand Provisional Council, told the AFP news agency. He said Taliban fighters attacked security checkpoints on the outskirts of Lashkar Gah and other districts. The armed group has continued to attack Afghan forces even after it signed a peace agreement with the US in February 2020. It calls Kabul a puppet regime of the West. Now moving on to Harish for the opening bell.
All right, let's now hear towards the opening bell of the market. Sensex gains 300 points. Nifty tops 14,750. Quick Hill soars 15%. Just Dial tanks 6%. Now let us move on to Ritika for some financial updates.
Thank you, Harish, for the opening bell. Finance news. Auto classifieds platform Car Trade files for rupees 2,000 crores IPO. Auto classified platform Car Trade has filed a draft red herring prospectus DRHP for an initial public offering IPO with the SEBI to raise about 2,000 crores. The issue consists of a pure offer for sale of 1,23,54,811 equity shares. Notably, Car Trade will not raise funds for itself and also its existing investors will be trading their shares. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ritika. Now some education updates. Education Minister to virtually meet state education secretaries today. Union Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal has decided to conduct a meeting with the state education secretaries from across the country today on May 17th. The meeting will be conducted in a virtual mode of view of the COVID-19 pandemic. Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal is conducting this meeting with all the state education secretaries today to review the impact of COVID-19 on the education system of India, as the schools and colleges have been closed for nearly 1 year now. The Education Minister had recently issued a statement to ANI. Union Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank will meet virtually all state education secretaries on Monday, stated ANI. The statement further read, the top agenda of the meeting will be the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on education, promotion of online education, implementation of new education policies and preparation made by the states. Now moving on to Harish for editorial of the day.
Today's editorial of the day. The enforcement of good manufacturing practices is a generic issue, not something we wake up into the midst of a pandemic. Courts have passed strictures against hoarders and black marketeers. Across the country, there have been arrests for diversion, hoarding, and black marketing of remdesivir, oximeters, and oxygen cylinders. These are emotive issues. The season of darkness brings out worst among people. The spring of hope is that it also brings out best among people, and there are several instances of exceptional individuals and organizations who have done their bit to ensure effects of the pandemic are mitigated. But there has also been the example of fake remdesivir and possibly azithromycin produced and marketed in India. The problem of fake and substandard drugs isn't new. It's been flagged several times. Although the Drugs and Cosmetics Act has been enforced for the past 56 years, the level of enforcement in many states has been far from satisfactory. The problems in the regulatory system in the country were primarily due to inadequate or weak drug control infrastructure at the state and central level, inadequate testing facilities, shortage of drug enforcement, lack of specially trained cadres for specific regulatory areas, non-existence of data bank, and non-availability of accurate information. Most of the prosecution cases pertaining to offenses related to spurious drugs remained undecided for years. This problem needs to be solved squarely by making a separate provision for speedy trials of such offenses. The Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 has been amended by the Drugs and Cosmetics Amendment Act 2008 for providing more stringent penalties to those involved in the trade of spurious drugs. Some offenses have become non-bailable. There are specially designated courts and regulatory infrastructure has been strengthened. How many checks are there on chemists who sell without prescriptions and the nexus of doctors? Temporary outrage over fake RT-PCR test reports is misplaced unless we decide to clamp down on everything fake. The crime isn't one of hoarding, but of selling a drug without a license. Incidentally, courts have ruled police officers can't register FIRs, arrest and prosecute for cognizable crimes under this law. That's the job of drugs inspectors. The notion of a black market is different, though the two can be related. For instance, it can be a shadow market where one evades tax, but in this context, it means charging a premium when there is a shortage. When there is a shortage, temporary or otherwise, prices will be higher than expected. There is no different from surge pricing used by cab companies or ambulances charging exorbitant prices now. Black market occurs when the price at which a product is sold is higher than administratively determined price. We are agitated at remdesivir selling for 70,000 a vial because the price is significantly above MRP across all brands of remdesivir. Action not taken in the best times now strikes back at us in the worst times. Thank you. Now let's move on to Arush for the update.
Thank you, Harish, for that enlightening editorial. Now we move on to an opinion article which talks about why we must reorganize cities to deal with the third wave. As ambulances siren through streets and social media is filled with desperate pleas for beds, ICUs, oxygen, and remdesivir, phones keep ringing with news of relatives, friends, and contacts falling sick and many losing their loved ones. The sheer scale of the calamity is difficult to fathom. There have been innumerable efforts in the past by civil society, trade unions, academia, public health experts, and others who repeatedly stressed on the crucial importance of strengthening local governance as key to mitigating and managing problems. These efforts have reached various high courts and the Supreme Court too as public interest litigations, trying to make local governance work. But the hubristic reliance and faith in centralized management has been such that even court orders directing public involvement in decision-making have all been disregarded. The whims and fancies of a few in power have prevailed with technology-based solutions for the pandemic. The 1992 Constitutional 73rd and 74th Amendments ensured local governments as the third tier of governance. 30 years later, after unprecedented loss of lives and livelihoods, the government of Karnataka has finally realized that pandemics cannot be fought top-down, and a decentralized approach has now been proposed at the ward levels in Bengaluru. Decentralized triage and emergency response committees for COVID-19 management have been initiated. This has shown how, as humans, cooperation is critical to survival. When there is a collective good that has been identified, we come together overlooking several structural differences. This is most evident in how people have come together to help each other in such dire times. The pandemic has also highlighted decades of poor urban planning. We have not learned from the plague of 1894, which pushed Bengaluru to redesign itself. We are at a turning point now to reorganize our cities, towns, and villages. According to estimates, about 70% of the global population will be in cities by 2050, and this is certainly not the last pandemic. While we must urgently prepare for the third wave, extreme weather is already here. All efforts must start with steps to first cater to the most vulnerable. And with that, we move to Kishore for some health updates.
Thank you, Arif. So, on health segment, we have COVID digital portal reconfigured a dose interval of COVID Shield vaccine from 6 to 8 weeks to 12 to 16 weeks. Dr. N.K. Arora, chairperson of the COVID working group, had recommended extension of the gap between the first and the second dose of the Covishield vaccine to 12 to 16 weeks. It was after the statement by the Serum Institute of India about the efficacy of the vaccine to be much more higher when the gap between the two doses is increased. Government of India accepted this on 13th May 2021. Thus, the COVID digital portal has also been reconfigured to reflect this extension of the interval for 2 doses of the COVID shield. As a result, further online or on-site appointment will not be possible if the period after first dose for a beneficiary is less than 84 days. Yet, for those who have already booked online appointment for the second dose of the COVID shield will remain valid and are not being cancelled. With this, now we are moving towards Bobby.
Bobby isn't here, so let us move on towards Trisha.
Thank you, Harish. Moving forward, today's cartoon is brought to you by Surit, depicting Let's Stand for Virus Rights as Virus Lives Matter. Thank you. Moving on to Arush for Crime Update.
Thank you, Trisha. Now moving on to yet another news about injustice against women. Mumbai, 3 arrested for gang rape of 20-year-old. Bandra police recently arrested 3 men for allegedly gang raping a 20-year-old woman. The accused have been remanded in police custody till May 19. According to the police, the complainant and the 3 accused, aged between 20 and 23 years, were friends and lived in the same neighborhood. On the night of May 11, the trio, along with the victim, reached the crime spot on two bikes. One of the accused was the boyfriend of the victim. Two of the three accused gang raped the victim near the scene, while the third abetted the crime. The four then left for home. After reaching home, the victim told her sister that she was experiencing pain in her stomach. She subsequently told her about being gang raped. The next day, the victim's sister took her to the police station where an FIR was registered under the IPC. The accused were eventually arrested. On May 13, the accused were produced before a court and remanded in police custody. And with that, we move to Agastya for updates from the science and technology sector.
Thank you, Arush, for your touching crime article, and I really hope the crime rate goes down in the near future. Now, moving on to the science and technology area, Chinese Mars rover Zhurong landed successfully on the red planet, marking the second country apart from US to have achieved this feat. China has successfully landed a spacecraft on Mars after surviving the 9 minutes of terror, the official media announced on Saturday, becoming the second country in history to have a rover on the red planet. The rover, Zhurong, named after the god of fire and war in Chinese mythology, landed at the pre-selected area in Utopia Planitia on Mars. The state-run Xinhua news agency reported. The six-wheeled solar-powered Zhurong rover weighs in about 240 kilograms and carries 6 scientific experiments. It will be later deployed from the lander for a 3-month mission in search of life on the Martian surface. The Tianwen-1, consisting of an orbiter, a lander, and a rover, was launched in July of 2020. It was the first step in China's planetary exploration of the solar system, with the aim of completing orbiting, landing, and roving on the red planet in one mission. The successful touchdown of the Chinese spacecraft on Mars is a remarkable achievement, given the difficult nature of the task. Significantly, it will now be a space race on Mars, as the Chinese spacecraft has landed 3 months after the successful landing of US space agency's NASA's Perseverance rover, which is busy exploring the red planet's surface with a helicopter hovering around. Previously, the US, Russia, the European Union, and India have succeeded in sending a spacecraft to Mars, regarded as the most complex space mission. With that, we now move on to Vidya for some entertainment news.
Thank you, Agastya. Reviving Doordarshan. The Information and Broadcasting Ministry is evaluating a proposal to turn Prasar Bharati into a corporate entity, a move that may enable the state broadcaster cut its dependence on public funds. Prasar Bharati recently submitted a set of recommendations to the ministry after the latter sought its input on the proposal. Two people familiar with the development said on condition of anonymity. The Hindustan Times reported in January that a panel of secretaries had recommended turning Doordarshan All India Radio into corporate entities in a presentation to the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you, Vidya. Now we have a friend Bobby from the Kerala who is just facing the effects of this cyclone. So let's hear us from the Bobby. What does he say about the cyclone? Hello, Bobby.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, can you just tell us what are the effects at present going on in your area?
Yeah, so we had heavy rainfalls and strong thunderstorms here last 2 days, and only 2 deaths are reported, but yeah, there are a lot of casualties here happening and a lot of destruction happened. And now the cyclone has moved from Kerala, but still we have rains here, and yeah, that's the situation going on. And it's said to be moving to Gujarat, and it probably will reach Gujarat by today, I think.
Okay, means at present you are just safe. Are you safe at your home?
Yeah, I'm safe at my home, but the thing is that we have a lot of rain and thunderstorms happening. It's that the cyclone has made that, but yeah, that's the situation. But I'm saying.
Okay, Bobby, no problem. Thanks for sharing the current situation with us. Please take care of yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let us move on to the next important topic of the day, which is I have appointed a special guest for you in order to know the information about the rising importance of insurance in this difficult time of the COVID. So let us hear on towards today's guest. Today we have a special guest with us who is none other than Yogesh Ray sir. Welcome Yogesh sir to our Satyavani show by APG Satya University. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Haris. Thank you for this call and meeting. I hope it's going to benefit your audience.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Thank you for providing us your valuable time. Sir, let me give a short introduction of you to our viewers. Sir has worked with various national and multinational companies for around 22 years in various roles and responsibilities. In his last assignment, he was working as a regional head with MK Global Financial Services Limited, primarily dealing in capital market, insurance and mutual fund distributions, PMS and investment banking. 2 years back, he and his friends co-founded a technology startup, Sri Visif AI Technologies, based in Pune. Since last year, he is full-time engaged in growing this company, providing artificial intelligence solutions catering to defense and internal security organizations and also for corporate safety and security. And sir is here to tell us about the growing importance of insurance in COVID time. So sir, may I ask my first question to you?
Yes, please.
So please tell me something about insurance and its importance, especially in the period of COVID.
Yeah, so Haris, I think to understand the importance of certain situation or product, if you get to understand some amount of historical knowledge behind that solution, you will understand the real importance of their solutions. So what I will explain you is how this insurance thing come into the existence. So it's around 150, 200 years back, the merchants and shippers in England, the British Empire was spread all across the globe, and their merchants and the shippers used to send their ships and goods throughout the world. But there was an inherent problem with this trade, that the ships used to get destroyed either by storm, or the pirates used to occupy them, or sometimes even the enemy nation used to destroy them. And this used to let them, to these traders, these shippers, go broke. To mitigate those risks, to reduce those risks, they come up with a solution wherein they decided that why not come together, collect a fund, contribute some amount, all business houses should contribute some amount into that fund, and whatever the risks was involved in the business can be spread with all the business communities, so that no one goes broke because of their loss in the business, their loss in the ships or the goods. So this is how the insurance things came, and the platform that was created to facilitate this coverage or spread of the risks was said as insurance. So it actually started with non-human insurance, or covering of the risk, which was like goods and ships and assets, and gradually it's also moved into covering human life and human health. So this is how it started. So now how it is important for humans or how it is important for COVID. Because of the COVID situation, many people are thinking that we should be having medical facility because of the higher hospitalization expenses. But the thing is that even when there was no COVID, the hospitalization expenses was same, and probably the risk was less, but risk was already there. So whether there was a COVID or not, today it is COVID, maybe tomorrow there won't be a COVID, some other disease may come. But insurance coverage has to be there, especially the health insurance, to cover the medical expenses. The rising cost of medical expenses sometimes destroys families. They had to sell their houses and assets. No, let us compare when there was no insurance era to the insurance era. So there was a time when people used to have their relatives like uncle, aunt, mama, mami, chacha, chachi, all these relatives were there. And in case of any death of the earning member, or in case of any eventuality within the family, these relatives used to support financially and morally to the aggrieved family, or to the family who has suffered that financial loss in terms of the human loss. But that is not the case now, because the family has the joint family system is breaking. The income of even the smaller families, or even if it is a joint family, the overall income has reduced unless until they are into a big business or everyone is an earning member. So in that scenario, depending on relatives for a big financial burden that comes while in terms of hospitalization, it won't be a good idea. So the insurance or the health insurance is our current relative who take care of myself and my family in terms of emergencies.
Okay.
So whether it's COVID or no COVID, insurance has to be there.
Okay, sir. So may I know how many types of insurance policies are available in the market?
Right. Very good question. So usually if we talk about how many types and how many insurance policies, so there are dozens of companies providing hundreds of insurance policies schemes to their customers. But broadly, we can define these insurance policies into certain categories. Let give you an example. We can broadly identify there is life insurance and there is non-life insurance. The non-life insurance is basically referred to as the general insurance, and the life insurance I'm sorry, the life insurance take care of the human aspects of the insurance. Even in these two broader categories, there are some subcategories. Like in life insurance, you have got a term plan, endowment plan, and ULIP. These are the three main broader category. And for the general insurance, there are like Mediclaim or health insurance, and the asset insurance. Asset insurance covers your vehicle, your home loans, your houses, or any other offices, office assets, etc. And the health and Mediclaim covers your hospitalization expenses.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So these are the broader categories. Now there are a lot of permutation and combinations. These categories are joined together to come up with hundreds of schemes by the insurance companies.
So according to you, which policy is beneficial for students this time?
Okay, before we go and talk about which policy is beneficial for insurance, let me explain you in more detail about these broader categories that insurance company provides.
Yeah.
Like in life insurance, we have got term plan. So term plan is also referred to as pure insurance, wherein you just put in an annual sum of money as a premium, and you don't get anything back, because this is a pure insurance. This is not a investment. So even if it's a lower, even if you are a lower income group person, one must go for at least a lower sum insured term plan. But term plan is a very, very mandatory for every human being. I would recommend. The second is the endowment plan. Endowment plan is basically a term plan plus investment plan. So many people who are not very comfortable that just or they may not understand the idea of paying a yearly premium and getting nothing in back and getting only a money after the death. So this endowment plan actually give them the idea of giving a fixed amount of money for a fixed tenure of a period, and then you start getting a return over a period of time, maybe 10 or 20 or 15 or 25 years. You get back those money. The rate of return is less, but you are definitely covered with those number of period of time with some amount of insurance coverage. The second is ULIP, that is referred to as, the third one is ULIP, that is referred to as a unit link insurance plan. This is basically a term plans plus a mutual fund. So if you add a term plan and mutual fund together, it becomes a ULIP. So the money goes into investment, into equities or balanced fund or debt fund, whatever you choose. And from that investment, some amount also goes as a towards your insurance coverage, which is a term plan, which is added to that product. So this is a ULIP. Now, why these three types of basic categories of product are created? Because everyone does not need there is no as such one thumb rule for everyone to be followed, because there are people who don't have the habit of remembering the premium date, paying date. So in that case, if the coverage is lost, they will go for a renewal and they will have to pay a more amount, a penalty for that. Whereas in ULIP, even if you have paid a certain amount of period and you stop paying the premium, still your coverage, a higher coverage is there. Whereas in endowment, there is a lower coverage, but at the same time, you can link your insurance plan with a certain amount of financial goals. Like if you plan to save some amount for your child, for his or her higher education, you can start an endowment plan for your child. For yourself, wherein your fund will get after 15 or 20 years, that can help your child education. So every schemes, even the permutation and combination of all these basic plan, when a new policy is introduced as a product by these insurance companies, it is actually made to suit, to customize as much as possible for various strata of people, from various income group, from various age group. So one must understand what is his requirement, what is his responsibility which are there on him, what are his role and what is his earning, what is his age. Considering all these criteria, one must decide which insurance policy he should be buying for himself or for family or for their child or for parents. Now, even in general insurance, I always recommend go for at least a mediclaim, which I have already explained you why it is very must. Now, coming back to your question, wherein you asked probably which policy is beneficial for students.
For students.
Yes. So for a student, since they are not earning, so probably they may not be getting a term plan, because there are certain terms and conditions provided by insurance companies to avail the term plan. But they can definitely go for endowment and ULIP by their parents. But before endowment and ULIP, the most important and the only, I would suggest, single pointed agenda of the student has to be that they should go for at least a mediclaim. It could be a joint mediclaim with their family as a family floater, or it could be an individual mediclaim policy, or and if a school or college provides a group mediclaim for students, then you should avail that facility as well. So what happens in young age, a lot of negligence are there. So that negligence sometimes brings in accident or health issues with the student, and that adds extra burden to the parents, apart from funding students' education. So a mediclaim is definitely going to help the parents as well as students, whether there is a COVID or not. Now there are for students who are coming from a lower income family, there are a lot of government schemes to cover your life insurance and your medical insurance. Now, for example, as for my information, there are more than 15 or 18 number of insurance scheme by central government as well as by various state governments, which are there in the market. So one should look out for in which category those students or those family comes to avail those government scheme. Just to give you two examples, Bharat, this Ayushman Bharat Yojana is there for a mediclaim, wherein 5 lakhs of health cover is provided for just some 300 or rupees, 330 rupees per year. Whereas there is Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Bima, wherein you just pay 1 rupee or 12 rupees a year and you get a coverage of 2 lakh rupees. Similarly, in between 1 lakh to 5 lakhs, there are over a dozen of government schemes. Just one must look out for that.
Yeah. So I also heard about this Yojana called Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana for girls. And
definitely it is not for students who study, but for parents,
yeah,
for parents, this is a very good policy, and without fail, one must go for that.
Yeah. So there are also a lot of insurances available nowadays on credit cards also, right, sir?
Yes. For credit cards, there are a lot of credit cards, debit cards who provide inbuilt insurance coverage. Accidental insurance coverage are there, or credit card protection coverage are there. So while buying a credit card or debit card, or there are some banks, even if you open up a bank account, they provide some voluntary insurance scheme. Just look out for them and get the documents and keep yourself safe. Keep those documents safe with you, so that in case of emergency, you can use it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I am done with my questions. Thanks for letting us know about so much of information about insurance, especially in this difficult time of COVID. Thanks for providing your valuable time, sir. Thank you for joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Haris. Yeah,
Thank you,
nice talking to you.
All right, viewers, we are done up with the day. I request you to please stay connected with us, stay insured. Thank you. Thanks a lot.